I had a conversation with somebody very high up, Tom Ferry, and he was like, is it you or is it the team? Are you giving them the accountability, the help that they need, or is it a them problem? And I looked myself in the mirror and I said, it's a me problem. I am not doing that. So after a year of now bringing on the right tools, right resources, and the right everything, now I can confidently say that it's not me and that it is the team. So it's a lack of confidence because you're afraid that if you say something like that, or if you set that as the standard, that they're going to go walk away, they're going to go leave, they're going to take a higher split. That's definitely where it comes from. And Vic, you'd probably agree with that, right?
You're listening to the #1 real estate podcast in the world. We talk with real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined by Vikram Deal of the Real Estate Sales Academy. Vikram, this is my final day in Medellin, Colombia. It's sad. It's a very, very sad day.
What, bro, you act like you're leaving forever and ever and ever. You're going away for like 45 days. Relax, dude. Jesus Christ.
Well, I know you're gonna miss me. I know you're gonna miss me. So like,
everybody needs a little spoon.
Like, fair. Everyone needs a big spoon.
Right.
I feel you. I echo your sentiment. Yeah. What's happening, man? What's good in life and business? What's the most exciting thing that's happened for you this week so far?
Most exciting thing was I delivered a really killer presentation to the real brokerage community around expireds and just the new framework that we're teaching, where it's coming from a curiosity base versus coming from like a sales based tonality. There's 250 people in there, and it's amazing how they said we've been through so many trainings, but nobody's ever broken down a script like you have, like the simplicity and why you say what you say, which I believe, but it just shocks me every time I hear that. And then the second thing was just the feedback, like, holy shit, like this actually didn't feel salesy, and this actually felt more in alignment. I was talking with a client last week, and I said, who's the person that you took advice from? Like, how many transactions have they done in the last 12 months? And she says, I never looked him up, but I looked him up afterwards. She said she's done 4 and I've done 12. And I said,
geez,
just
man,
be careful who you guys, like what I would say to everybody out there in the world, be careful who you take advice from.
I said the same thing. I had this conversation last week. I'm like, stop taking advice from the dickhead in your office that's telling you not to do rentals when you don't have a buyer in your pipeline.
Cody, we're supposed to be nice on the podcast.
Yeah, being nice. I am being nice. I'm trying to help the agent that's struggling right now.
I know.
I'm trying to help the agent that's struggling right now, that's listening to, because like you and I had this conversation. There's agents in offices right now that are saying, don't do rentals right now. But it's like, you don't have any business. And like the fastest way to a paycheck right now for you might be a rental.
Absolutely.
It might be helping somebody get
paycheck.
into a rental.
It's a couple grand, man. No, like when I got into the business, I took rentals, I took buyers, I took low price point deals. I drove farther than I wanted to, but it all paid out because I had a system to follow up with these people. They weren't like one and done. It wasn't like my dating life, which was more of like a one night stand type of thing. It was more of, I want to have a relationship with these people for long term. And it's funny because today what popped up from 9 years ago was one of our very first client appreciation parties. And let me just dive into this real quick before we introduce Dan, because Dan's the man. My parents flew in from California. They brought wine with them. My mom brought a full suitcase full of frozen food because she's a great Indian cook and my clients are Indian. So she actually cooked for 2 days. And when we did our party, we had games, we had the backdrop, right? We had the step and repeat. We had the photographer and the videographer there doing the testimonials, and we created a ton of content, and we got probably 5 new clients out of it. But what we created was a bunch of raving fans, and we had a ton of fun. We gave out prizes. It wasn't super expensive. It was a couple $1,000s. Everybody's like, oh, that's so expensive. If you're not willing to spend money on the people who put hundreds of thousands of dollars into your pocket, like you guys say you want to be relationship based, but this is how we build relationships. It takes money. And if you're not willing to put in the money and the effort, and maybe you don't have as much money, so you don't have to bring in the Camus wine, you don't have to, fly mom and dad out. Actually, mom and dad flew out on their own dime, but that It was great. Half the bottles broke on the way to the trip. Like they like all their clothes were ruined. They didn't say anything. They're just like happy to see it. But like, that's how we build relationships, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. I echo that 155,000%. I think that so many people like, and I think, we get guilty of this as well. Oh my goodness. This is a perfect opportunity for us to intro our guest. The 0’Neil team 2020. Yeah. Camus Wines.
That is so funny, bro.
Oh man, that's so good. We have a very special guest, somebody that I've been following his journey over the last little while, following on social media, watch what he's been doing with Broke Agent Media. I've been watching what he's doing in different markets. Recently opened
just
up
on his own personal Instagram.
Yeah. Even on his own personal Instagram has been crazy, but recently opened up in Florida, opened up a brokerage in Florida, or opened up a team in Florida. Dan, why don't you give us like the Cliff Notes version, 90-second of like how the heck you got into real estate, what you're doing, all the different activities that you're doing on the side. I could imagine Broke Agent Media would be like even its own thing. Why don't you give all the listeners an idea of like who Dan is, what you're doing, why you're doing it?
Dan's like 65 years old, so he's been doing all this stuff for years and years and years. He's like 60 years old, so that's why he's got so much success.
Hair, instead of it turning gray, it's actually turning pink, which is yeah. So my name is Dan O'Neil. First of all, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to come on the show. So I'm 29 years old. I've been in the business. This is my 5th year. I founded a team. We are the #1 team in units and volume here in Long Island, New York. For 3 years in a row now, we have won the best team, I believe, the last 2 years. And we recently just expanded down to Sarasota, the west coast of Florida. Our grand opening is going to be October 12th. We started this about 2 years ago, and it's finally coming to fruition. So I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations.
103 flights later. It's diabolical. And yeah, I mean, I didn't have any real estate or sales background. Just kind of was in a weird place in my life and wanted to own my own business. And I wish I had a better story, but I don't. Just got my license, and I figured if I was working as hard as I was in my old job in the restaurant business, 100 hours a week, if I translated that into real estate or owning my own business, that got to do well, right? Like, how hard could it be? Boy, was I wrong. But 4 years later, I'm glad I stuck with it. And now my hair is pink, and I'm on your guys' podcast, and let's chop it up.
So first off, big props to Cody and the team. This is episode number 200. So we wanted to have somebody super special. So it actually worked out perfectly how the universe does that. Last week you weren't able to make it. There was a scheduling issue. So we wanted to bring you guys somebody who was doing super cool things, but super humble, super like good person, funny as fudge online. Like if you see his video where he's leaving Florida and he's on the bicycle and literally like he almost crashed 9 times, gas tank, the whole shebang. It's hilarious. And what I like about that is that you are being you authentically, but you're also being like really informational, and you're allowing people to step into their own lane, which I think is pretty dope. Like, so, welcome to the show.
I would have never posted that, but not to interrupt you, I would never have posted that video a year and a half ago. I was overly critical. I was just so overly critical, right? Like I cared about likes and views. And I started to kind of, just something, I don't know, just changed, right? Where I'm like, why do I care what other people are thinking or saying about me, right? Like, that's me. Everyone keeps saying.
But you were already successful at this point. So this is like, there's a lot of team leads out there right now that are probably thinking like, well, Dan already had a successful business. Like, it's not like you've built this overnight. Like, what was it about worrying? Because like you did the Broke Agent Media stuff. Like, what was it that allowed you to come out of your shell to do something different? Like, cause like me and Vic talk about this a lot about like just being truly authentic to yourself. Like what was it? Like what changed?
So, I mean, I was really always myself in a way, but I kind of just like almost like portrayed a character, right? Like I came up with a lot of the funny skits. At that time, it was like my unique value proposition, right? When I was, going to sellers, I would get them X amount of views. And I would post like once a week, right? I would use my stories, but people keep saying like, oh, how's Florida? How's Florida? Like they don't really understand what goes into taking 102 flights. They don't understand what goes into taking a same day flight to go on a meeting and then come back. They don't understand what it's like to have 50 people up here and 20 down there in a whole new office. So that video specifically was just like, everything could go as easy as you want, right? Like everything goes to plan, and all of a sudden one thing it changes, and next thing you know, you're on a scooter and you're out of gas and you're riding it for 8 miles. So that's why I posted that. It's just kind of like, hey, you know what? It's not all glamour. It's not all fun, right? Like here are like actual, like, yes, it is funny, but like here are real life problems, right? Like that we all kind of face. And I think it was just kind of some of the outpouring stuff that I received from other agents and people that are not even in the business. Like, hey, like one of your videos has inspired me or motivated me. And now I just have the mentality that if I can make one person's day, if I can make one person laugh, if I can inspire or motivate literally one person, then what do I care about views and likes? And you'll even see on some of my recent posts, I've just turned off views and likes or comments just like right from the get-go, because I don't want it to like change what I want to post.
That's really interesting, because the vanity metric for Instagram and Facebook or whatever, TikTok, right? That vanity metric is like the same vanity metric we have in real estate. What's your GCI? And it's like people get caught up on the roller coaster of building a big business, but not building a profitable business. Like, I don't need to have a ton of people on our team. In fact, oftentimes we were a smaller team and we were out producing people, but it's that vanity metric, which I think is really interesting, that you turned off. And let me ask you this question. When you turned off that vanity metric, bro, did you start to show up a little bit differently for yourself, like online?
Oh, absolutely. And people noticed it right away too. People would text me like, we love this kind of like version of you. And I'm like, what the hell do you guys mean? Like, I've been this way the entire time, And so it was something that was just incredibly like liberating in a way, where I could just now, I don't know, I just don't worry about what I have to post. And of course, like there's a science behind, social media and growing it. And I was definitely guilty of doing it for 3.5 years, 4 years really. But it's just, I don't know, it's liberating. And you know what it is too? We have so many good, like not good stories. We have so many stories of people on the team, agents on the team that need to be shared. And it kind of started from that, right? From a place of like, there's a 19-year-old kid here that lost his mom, his brother, his best friend, and as a kid, he tore his Achilles, so he couldn't get his union job in the same week. And yet he's here showing up every day with a smile on his face, working his ass off. Like that story needs to be shared, and I have the platform to do it. We have an agent on our team that has leukemia at 23 years old. It's not my place to share it, but if he wants to share that story, like I have the power to do that, right? And like my hair's pink and we were making fun of it, but we're doing a breast cancer awareness month is October with our grand opening, so we're tying it into philanthropy. So trying to now use this platform that I built to, make our industry and the world a better place in a way. And so getting out of my own head about views and likes and comments is the start of that.
Now, for somebody that doesn't know, because I initially found you. I saw you on Instagram a couple of years ago, and I have this, like you mentioned earlier that you're doing some stuff with Broke Asian Media. You're the captain there. Like you're doing some really, you're doing some interesting things, not only on your own channel, but you've almost started this, like you have this separate media company as well that you're working with. Like, I guess what inspired that, and how has that kind of played into the business, or even just the concepts that you create? Because like you guys are creators, and I think a lot of agents have a hard time wrapping their head around how to even become a media company, like where you guys have actually have a media company, or you are a media company and you have just a different ethos towards like content. Like talk to agents about what that's done for you personally and professionally.
Yeah. So that kind of all came to fruition. So shout out to BAM, shout out to Byron and Eric and the entire BAM staff, Broke Asian Media. So that really came to fruition about 4 years ago. Eric, the Broke Agent, was posting at the time. And granted, he had been building this brand for the longest time in the world, and he still is. But he was posting out funny videos, and highlighting agents who were doing those. I believe it was myself, Matt Leonetti, and Dan Lee Plum, who's out in Australia. So Eric actually charged us $500, and we all sent him a video that we were doing, because we were kind of doing those funny skits in the very beginning. And he highlighted us, and then from there, Eric and I really just became like very close friends. And we always talked about making kind of like, the Barstool of real estate, like kind of like new age media, right? Like not to use Barstool as an example, but just front-facing media that is not very stuffy and that's not behind a paywall that is literally a mortgage payment a month. Not that there's another company or others that are out there like that. But so we kind of just like talked about it jokingly, and fast forward, went to his wedding, went to his bachelor party. He's one of my best friends. Him and Byron Lazine founded BAM. Byron is, he has the one team here in Connecticut, number one team, which is another incredibly difficult market. So it's a front-facing media company that is not just with creators, right? It's actually practitioners. So you're getting this information of people front-facing that are in the business every day, that are it's almost like new media in a sense, that's not behind a paywall of $3,000 a month or $200 a month. And it's building a community, and one that has changed the trajectory of my business, and just surrounding myself with those people and learning from a Byron, learning from Eric about social media, and just the other people, practitioners and creators that are on there. It's changed my business for the better, and I love it. And I love the fact that I'm the captain of it too, which is sick.
I want to get into some tactical things, because obviously to be a number one team in any market, leave alone a competitive, highly competitive market, and now expanding it to another market that's also very competitive. I want to get into more tactical things, because this is really designed to help agents, because I fundamentally believe that if most real estate agents can do 2 deals a month, 24 deals a year, their lives are going to fundamentally improve and change, right? Like I know there's my buddy Bill Pipes, and I know there's other coaches out there that are like, let's get to $1 million. I want to create 30 millionaires. And I think that's fantastic. And I want to create like lifestyle for thousands of real estate agents because at 2 deals, no matter where you're at, even if you're on a team, even if you're on a 60-40 split, let's call it, and the team's getting the lion's share, if you're selling 2 deals at median or slightly over, you are making more than the average person in your community, and you are going to live a higher quality life. But I talk to people all day long. Like we talked to a team just today, 10,000 to 7,000 is something like that. Between 7 to 10,000 leads, they don't even know, because there's so many and they're not doing anything with them in their database. And they've converted maybe 5 or 7. And I was thinking that's per month, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. But it's 5 to 7. The percentage it doesn't even register on a calculator. There's not enough zeros to go in front of it.
Not the math guy, but okay, you beat me to it.
Yeah, I saw what you're doing. I was like, what's the math on that? I'm like, it's so bad that and here's the crazy thing, bro. Probably $250K spent. Their team keeps saying we need better leads, we need new leads. But this industry's fundamentally broken, because our industry's membership based, and everybody sells leads. Nobody sells training, right? So everybody's like, no, I need the leads. I'm like, no, you don't. You need the training to get the leads. Like, don't put the egg before the cart. What are you teaching? Like, how are you teaching your agents? Because you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast that 81 open houses with one of your team members, 81 open houses, no deals. You guys did a couple of tweaks. Boom. They've put 2 deals into they've sold 2 open houses at the open house, and they have a 30 to 40 pipeline buyer list, because I'm fundamentally like, dude, bro, love open houses, dude. You drop me into a brand new market, bro. I'm going to do 16 open houses my first 2 weeks. I'm going to put 4 deals in contract. I'm going to pick up 2 buyers that are going to be 60 days out. I'm going to have a pipeline to serve that I'm going to have Cody's people call. And I'm going to do that in 2 weeks with 16 open houses. And I'm going to find the open houses from people like you. Because I'm be like, yo, Dan, what's up? I like your suit. I got one too. Can I do your open houses? And you're like, what's your process? I'm like, here's my process. You're like, here's my book, bro. Take a couple agents with you, like teach them how to do your open houses, because they're sick. How are you, like, what are you teaching your folks right now? Because you said something, 90 days, this market's going to shift, and buyers are going to, like, agents are going to be fucked.
I mean, I think it's not even that. I think 90 days is kind of like, the market's already shifted, right? It shifted kind of last July. And to your point too, that's exactly what I would do if I were to join a new market. And that's exactly what I did when I got my license. In fact, I used to have my father babysit my open houses, because I was by myself and I had so many going on, and he didn't even have his license until one day I finally came to one of the open houses and the guy was asleep. And that's when I started the team. But to your point, leads don't get better. We do, right? So if you're not role playing, if you're not practicing, if you're not doing objection handling, if you're not staying up to date on what's going on, and you don't know how to articulate that to somebody, right? So like if somebody asks you what's going on in the market, or is now a good time to buy, is now a good time to sell, if you're not able to articulate what these headlines and what the news are saying and what that means in your hyper local market, you're going to have a problem. It makes me want to literally throw up when I hear somebody has spent, and I asked you, I don't know if we were recording or not, like those leads, if they were sweat equity or check equity.
Check.
And you said check. So the fact that somebody has wasted $250,000, right? It comes down to three things, right? Is it the training? Is it just like lack of effort? Like, are they just doing nothing? Like, do they have no SOPs? Do they have no staff? Or like, are they just, or are they trying and they have everything checked off and they're just maybe not doing it the right way, right? So maybe they're not following up the right way. Maybe they're not adding value. Maybe they just don't know how to answer the phone or talk to somebody. So I think it's really important that you track and measure everything that you're doing, and you're constantly practicing and putting in the reps and experience. If you got dropped off in a brand new market and you didn't know how to do an open house, right? But I threw you on 16 of them, you're probably not going to convert very well, right? Because you don't know what you're doing. That's why practicing and having that mentorship and the training is super important. And then also like tracking it. So that example of the open house, that goes for anything. That goes for if you answered 100 Zillow calls and you say, oh, these leads stink. I bet you if we went back and we listened to every single one of those calls and we played a game, did this agent or did this consumer find their agent in the first 30 seconds? I give you a $100 bill for every time that they did, and you give me 100 back. I'm going to walk out of there with, what's 100 times 100? I don't know, 10,000? 100,000, whatever.
I'm going to walk out with a lot of your money.
Yeah, I'm taking all the money. So we do that game and we do the accountability calls, right? And I love hearing that saying, like, the leads are no good. Yeah, well, let's go into it and let's listen to some of these calls and let's break it down, because not to like be, facetious, but that drives me nuts.
Well, like, and to ask Cody the same question, because I started working with Cody's team here recently, and when Cody started actually looking more, and Cody's like a number guy, but sometimes you get busy and you stop looking at certain numbers.
Super easy to stop looking at numbers. Yeah.
And when you started looking at the numbers of like your guys, like, and you started working on like when you start tracking better, like one of the things Cody's doing now is he's tracking better, and he's got one of his setters. Like you were telling me the story today earlier, like what did you do with your setter that doubled his production in the last 2.5 weeks, which is insane.
We were looking at the wrong number. Like, so like inside of our system, Vici dial, we were so focused on I would look at the numbers and be like, oh, follow up in the future. It's like, well, what does that actually mean? So we started breaking down like the tags that they do. Like there's follow up in the future, there's callback, and then there was not interested. And we started going into those tags and listening to those calls and saying, oh, the callback, if we approached it this way with like a hypothetical question where it's like, hypothetically, why would somebody in your circumstance be potentially or possibly looking for more appointments for your business, or for a free list of homes, or for a home value? And just those simple little tweaks doubled the conversion rate. And like you said, Dan, it's like those small little tweaks allow us, but like we don't, like, so many of us are looking at the lagging indicator. So we're like, okay, we want to make, $100,000, and we have this like wishful thinking that we're going to make 100 or we make $200,000 this year, but we're not looking at the actual leading indicators that are actually going to produce that number, or are going to allow us to even come close to that number. So like, Dan, like my question for you would be, like, when you're working with your team, like you have a really large team locally, you have another new team that's, you're building in Florida, like what are like some of the non-negotiables that you have for your team? And then I want to hear from you also, Vic, like what are some of the non-negotiables that you had when you were in Seattle for your team? Like what did they have to do on a daily basis for you in order to,
Funny.
I have a funny story. I have a story about that.
Okay. What are the non-negotiables though? Like, because I think this will help even single agents be like, oh, that's too hard. Like I want to hear the non-negotiables.
So we actually just brought in, because we were having a tough time with, so we have Zillow Flex, right? So we were in the entire metro, which is New Jersey, Connecticut, Manhattan, I don't know, Jersey, Philly, don't quote me, I'm not a geologist or whatever map guy. I went to Coastal Carolina, right? So we brought on an ISA, right? Because we were out of 43 teams, we were ranked 42, which would mean we were basically about to get cut from this program, and the equivalent that we were spending would have been about $100,000 a month. I didn't want to come out of pocket with it, so I brought on an ISA. What we figured out was, at the bare minimum, if we had a 65% answer rate, that would translate to like a 45% appointment rate. Out of that 45%, or 45 people, let's call it, out of 100, maybe 35 meet with you, 17 start showing homes, and 10 make offers, and out of that, maybe 4 convert, which is horrible. So we brought on the ISA, we cranked all those numbers up to now a 90% answer rate, an 85% appointment rate, and we tweaked all these numbers to now we're 3 out of the 43 or 42 in just 60 days. And we also did some CRM integrity. So like, just like you said, right? Like follow up, it was kind of like very vague. Like, no. You're going to have when you're following up, it's going to be in your calendar. It's going to be set as a task. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to check too. And you're not going to receive any of the new leads until that is done or until that's updated. And if you don't have it updated, don't call me and ask why your phone isn't ringing because your CRM is not updated.
Why do you think team leads are so, because like I hear this consistently. Vic and I speak with team leads all the time. Why are they so hesitant to have that conversation with their agent saying, if you don't, and I want to hear your opinion on this because you had a team, why are they so hesitant to be like, if we don't hit these numbers, you're not going to get the Zillow Flex. You're not going to, because I've heard, we've had team leads on calls before, on podcasts saying this is how we operate, but so many team leads out there are afraid to
I've been there.
Implement that.
I feel like everybody's been there, right? But it comes from like self-awareness, accountability, and knowing what you have to offer. So last year, when I was talking about this June, July situation, I had a conversation with somebody very high up, Tom Ferry, and he was like, is it you or is it the team? Are you giving them the accountability, the help that they need, or is it a them problem? And I looked myself in the mirror and I said, it's a me problem. I am not doing that. So after a year of now bringing on the right tools, right resources, and the right everything, now I can confidently say that it's not me and that it is the team. So it's a lack of confidence because you're afraid that if you say something like that, or if you set that as the standard, that they're going to go walk away, they're going to go leave, they're going to take a higher split. That's definitely where it comes from. And Vic, you'd probably agree with that, right?
I agree 100%, man. Like, one of the questions that Sharon asks me this all the time. He said, Vic, is it a them thing or is it a you thing? He's like, if it's a you thing, like that's an easy thing to fix. What do you need to simplify and what do you need to do? He's like, if it's a them thing, who do you either need to let go or change the seat on the bus of? Or why are they not doing it? But at the end of the day, you guys, here's the truth. The results we get are the results we allow and the results we accept. If you're not happy with the results you get and the results that are in your world, it's because you have accepted what's out there. And the reason why we don't have those conversations is, one is, for me, I didn't like to have those conversations because I didn't have good systems to bring somebody else in. And so I already had, it's kind of like why people stay in mediocre relationships. It's the fear of the unknown, which is scarier than I got this monkey on my back, but if I let this one go, what if I get a bigger one on my back? So at least I know what I'm dealing with here. And the other thing is that, Cody, you said this to me. Yeah, well, confrontation is only hard because we don't have conversations about performance. Raquel was doing a talk at Icons, and if we don't have the right conversations, but it also goes down to boxes, not people. Like what Sharon told you the other day, Cody, was boxes, not people. And if we look at the person in an isolated format and we say, okay, this is what they're supposed to do. They didn't do it. This is what our performance call was. Okay. They still didn't do it. This was what our performance call was. They still didn't do it. Then that person just doesn't fit in that box. That's what it comes down to. It's boxes, not people.
And I think a lot of people are afraid of confrontation. So like I had a sales manager that I literally like ignored for 4 months, just paying their salary because I didn't want to fire them because I didn't want the confrontation of it. I literally just didn't even call the guy. It was really bad. It's same thing with relationships.
Isn't it crazy
right?
that we'll stay out of our own offices as the leaders that are paying for this shit when people are in there because we don't want to have that conversation. Isn't that crazy?
The moment you said that, Dan, like my stomach, like literally, like I felt it right in my stomach because I'm like, I've done that. Like I literally did that, and you remember this? Like I did this at the beginning of the year. Like I just it's such an interesting thing for. Team leads,
like psychology, man.
Even
it's totally psychology.
A year and a half ago, right? Like we have our meeting schedules, we have our accountability calls, and the same people were missing them, right? So I was afraid to fire them. So I'd call them up and I'd be like, hey man, you missed, this is the 4th week in a row. Like I got to let you go. Starts crying. I'm like, never mind. Like you're good. Just don't. I swear to God.
I've been there. I've been there. One more try.
Yeah. And what do you think happened? 2 weeks later, missed the meeting. I called him up and he was like, I'm fired. I was like, you are. And click. So it's kind of one of those things where like I used to hate and I used to avoid it in any measure, staying in relationships, whatever it may be. But like once you get that confidence and once you have that, that talk with yourself.
How does somebody that is struggling
hold themselves
with
accountable?
Hold themselves accountable? Because it's one thing to hold another person accountable, but we as team leaders, like I heard, I think it was Simon Bowen who said to me a while back, he's like, no, it's Alex Sharfet who said this. He's like, we often don't have the business that we want because we're not the person that we need to be in order to lead it. So how do we become the person we need to be in order to lead the business that we want to create?
Take it to also from a team lead, but also I want to hear your perspective on an individual agent without a good infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really one and the same in my opinion. I think you need to surround yourself or seek out people that are doing things that you want to do. So for me, all of these things that I'm talking about didn't exist until I joined the Tom Ferry ecosystem, and I joined up with Jeff Mays, and he introduced me to like a Byron Lazine, a Tom Toole, Lisa Chinati, who are doing numbers and deals in the markets that I want to do, right? 600, 900, 1,000 transactions or sides in some of the most competitive markets. So every time I have a situation, I can call them or lead on them. And once you hear like their mentality, how they're running things, how they're running their ship, they've all been through those problems too, right? They're just 3 years or 4 years past them. But I used to say, or Jeff used to tell me, Carolyn Young would literally call this person up right now and fire them on the spot. Do you want to be as successful as Carolyn Young or Lisa or Tom or Byron? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, you know what to do. So it was basically just seeking out those people. And even if you're an individual agent, go seek out an accountability buddy or partner. I have them as a team leader, right? That hold me accountable. So while I'm holding my team accountable, I have my own accountability group where if I show up to that the day before or the day of, I don't have what I said I was going to do the prior week and everybody else did. Number one, they're going to boot me. But number two, I'd be mortified. So I'll make sure I'll stay up till 7 a.m. that day and get my calls done, get my recruiting done, whatever it may be. So that way I don't show up to that call empty-handed because out of respect for them and respect for their time. So whether you're an individual agent or you're a team lead, find people like-minded or maybe who are doing even better than you in certain aspects and get an accountability partner or a group.
So accountability groups fail because there's no consequence, right? Everybody's just like, oh, well, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Like there's no call outs. Everybody's, why do we live in a society where when somebody fails, everybody's like, no, they would be be lucky to have you. Oh no, they're the ones who fuck up. It's like, no, the client didn't fuck up, you guys. We messed up. We got to take ownership at some point in this world that we live in.
Yeah, I think that's just a fundamentally, it's a problem that we have in every industry and just in life in general, right? People are afraid to take accountability and there's no consequences, right? So when you make it fun or you make a competition out of it and you start to take accountability for your actions or for issues that happen, right? It's a different mindset. And it's something that I didn't have. And in my opinion, accountability is the number one resource and tool in business. It's free.
Yeah. I think back to, even like how I met Sharon. It was literally in a mastermind. And it's really interesting. You speak with a lot of like guys, like, and anyone listening back to this on iTunes or Spotify, you listen to what Dan's saying, you listen to like we got Sharon or Tamir, they all talk about getting around people that are, 1 step, 2 step, 5 steps ahead of you. And sometimes in order to access those groups, like I was spending, the only reason I met Sharon, and I tell people this all the time, the only reason I met Sharon was because I was a part of a mastermind that I was paying $5,000 a month for. And that would mortify a lot of people in order to spend that amount of money. And be honest with you, when I was spending it, I was like, I don't know how I'm coming up with $5,000 a month, but I'll figure it out. Because I believed in my ability.
A free way to do that. And what I did in the very beginning, free, $0.
$0
is what you guys are doing right now. Because now think about it. Now I just got to chop it up with you guys for 45 minutes. I now know you guys. You invited me onto your podcast. There you go. Free 99.
The funny thing, bro, the funniest thing is that if you have a podcast, whether it's big or small, when you invite enough people on it, the way it gets big is that you're going to share this, and then you're going to attract somebody else. That person's going to get recognition. Oh, that's a cool person. Hey, we like this person. But when you have a podcast, the crazy thing is that people who would never talk to you because they're busy, they're doing their thing, they don't know who you are, like they'll never talk to you without an introduction or meeting them at an event like a conference. So like live events change lives. I've spent almost $1 million, if not more, on live events, conferences, personal development, growth. But it's put me in the room with Tony Robbins, Bedros Keuilian, Sharon Srivatsa. But the crazy thing is we would probably have never got to hang out with you for 45 minutes and chop it up, like you said, and just bullshit and pick your brain and have this fun conversation if Cody and I didn't start this platform a year ago. And we've had 160 conversations, which we don't even monetize. Like we just talk to cool people and we don't monetize this at all, but it's like the doors start opening when you start to see, it's like if we go to an event and I see Dan would be like, oh shit, Vic, what's up, bro? And I'm like, oh, that's what you actually look like. And we're going to start to hang out. It's like, hey, let's
way
go.
Shorter.
Let's go let's go. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was like, let's go to the bar, get a drink, like whatever it is, get some, we're doing 75 hard. So, get a sparkling water. And we start to talk in real life. And you guys don't realize the power that you have if you have a platform. Agents, right? Like agents. You want to know how you grow really fast in your marketplace? Go start interviewing local business owners. Say, hey, I have a platform on my Instagram where I'm going to post you for free. I'm going to drive people to your business. Hey, could you throw in a $50 gift certificate to your business so I can give it away to a person? Right now, they are like, holy shit, the law of reciprocity, they feel indebted to you. You feel indebted to them. You have a relationship. And instead of you like going to the coffee shop, you actually are having a fun time.
Amen.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, Dan, I know we're running short on time. I want to say thank you more than anything for taking the time, for us.
Thank you guys. And I would love to come back. I apologize. I have a recruiting meeting at 4:30. Well, it was 4:30. I don't want to be rude to them, but I would love to, especially because I messed up a couple weeks ago. We should maybe do a part two.
You're good. We
should do a part two. And in a
just
couple
have
weeks,
your
when
EA Venmo us. Just have your EA Venmo us like $20,000 each for our time, and we'll be fine.
brother, if let's close out here. If somebody wants to find out, they want to learn where you are, where can we send them?
I would just send them to our Instagram. It's at @DanO'Neil_. Thank you guys seriously from the bottom of my heart for having me on here. I would love to definitely come on, have a part two. And it was an honor to be on here. So thank you guys very much. I really do appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Dan, I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast. We'll see you soon.